I stayed at this Wanaka Holiday Park 2 years ago, so it is a little bit outdated, this video. I just didn't get around to making it, but it's probably hasn't changed a lot since I stayed there, so let's get into it. There's tons of space in the holiday park, so you can easily park long caravans and buses here. They've got small sites for tents and big sites for large vehicles. They've got these adorable old-fashioned rail cars decorating the holiday park, which creates a point of difference as well. I paid for a powered site, and my site had plenty of space to park my tow car in front of my caravan. I've stayed at so many holiday parks in New Zealand that barely had any space available for your tow vehicle to park at the front of the caravan. And then it becomes stressful because when you are reversing your car to hitch up your caravan, you're blocking the road. So I was impressed to see this place actually has enough space to park and hitch up your car in front of the caravan. They provided free internet, but it was very slow. This is the road through the holiday park. It was full of potholes, as you can see, but every road is full of potholes in New Zealand, so this is just standard here. State Highway 1 is covered in potholes that are much worse than this. So one of the reasons why the park might be a little bit cheap is because technically it doesn't have a dump station within the park. It's actually located directly outside the barrier arm, so technically it's a council dump station that anybody can use. And so if you want to use the dump station, you have to go out through the barrier arm, and then it's just right there opposite reception. But obviously you would find that there's often lines there because you're waiting in line to use the dump station, and so's everybody else staying in Wanaka. They're all using that same dump station because it's not private to this holiday park, so that's the only downside of this holiday park. There were 2 toilet blocks, and both are clean and spacious with plenty of shower stalls. These communal blocks have kitchens, and there's also this nice outdoor kitchen area where you can have barbecues outdoors. The main kitchen here has 4 communal fridges and 4 decent sized sinks for your dishes, and they even supply the dish liquid as well, which is really great. It's got a nice laundry room with 4 washing machines, several deep sinks for hand washing, and 4 large dryers as well. These machines take tokens, so I don't actually know how much they charge, as you have to visit reception and buy the tokens to use in the machines. There's a great playground for kids with the usual jumping pillow that New Zealand parks have. The grounds are well maintained and gardens are tidy. Like a lot of other holiday parks in New Zealand, the idea is that you arrive and then you just sort of park up here next to reception so that you can go and check in, and that way you can then open up the barrier arm and take your RV into the park. So you can see in the photos here, there's a barrier arm there that you can't get into until you check in. I stayed here in November 2 years ago. That's springtime, so it's still the off season, and they charged me only $23 per night for a powered site, which I thought was a fantastic price for Wanaka because Wanaka is really expensive. The whole Wanaka Queenstown region is very expensive. I originally booked 2 nights, but I extended longer because it is a great price for a park like this. The weather was absolutely horrible, and you can see in all of my photos that the skies are grey, so I wasn't getting much solar power, and so I was just grateful that their powered sites were really cheap at $23 per night. Since that was 2 years ago that I stayed, I just checked their current prices, and it's now $30 for a powered site. This is December now, so that may also be why it's gone up to $30 because it's summertime, whereas I stayed in November when it was still springtime. So it's a little bit more than the $23 per night that I paid 2 years ago, but I still think $30 is pretty reasonable for this region. Also, the holiday park has been taken over by Hampshire Holiday Parks now, so it has a name change. It's now Wanaka Hampshire Holiday Parks. I think it's good they got rid of the Lakeview part of the name that they had before because it's a bit misleading. You actually only get just a small glimpse of the lake from the holiday park, so calling it a Lakeview Holiday Park's not really that truthful, so I prefer the new name anyway. But having said that, it is only a short walk from the lake. I walked over to the famous Wanaka tree from here. Here's a cute duck with the Wanaka tree in the background. There were a dozen people taking photos of the Wanaka tree. The Wanaka tree became famous 10 years ago when a photograph of it won the New Zealand Geographic Photo of the Year, and it then became an internet sensation. It's a willow tree, and it just illustrates how a willow tree can survive just completely submerged in a lake, which is pretty impressive, and that's why it became such a popular tree on the internet, and you'll find that there are always a dozen people taking photos of this tree. Regarding the customer service at the holiday park, everything was fine here and I have no complaints at all about this holiday park. The kitchens, bathrooms, everything were perfectly clean and spacious and I was happy with it. The only thing I didn't like about this holiday park actually was the tourists. At breakfast time, everyone was just sitting there on their phones, not talking to one another or interacting with each other. I found that quite creepy because in New Zealand we talk to each other, and the whole point of going on holiday is to meet other people and say hello to other tourists. I just find it really strange that you would travel all the way to New Zealand and then just sit here and stare at your phone instead of going out and actually talking to people. Even when I smiled at people, they just didn't smile back, which I found creepy. There was also a German woman who was driving on the wrong side of the road, and I spoke to her about it and she was just utterly vile. In Germany, they just report people to the police without speaking to them first, and you can see why when Germans behave like this, why they would just go straight to the police. In New Zealand, we give people the benefit of the doubt and we explain that they're doing something wrong, and then if they ignore us and they want to keep doing it, then we would call the police. But it's sad to see that Germans travel all the way over here and then just behave like this. So far, whenever I see bad tourists in New Zealand, they've almost always been Germans. I went to Germany for a semester of university, and the Germans in the south of Germany don't act like that at all. But other than the bad tourists, I think the holiday park itself was great, and I would happily stay here again. I think it's a really good holiday park and a great price. Happy travels! Bye!